What's up, everyone? It's Rachel Lindsay, and if you love all things Bravo, then you need to be listening to Morally Corrupt. Every Tuesday and Friday, your favorite Ringer podcasters and I dive into Bravo's biggest moments and dish out hot and always unfiltered takes. And guess what? Now you can watch us too. That's right, Morally Corrupt is now available in video on Spotify. So whether you're listening in your family van or watching next to your white refrigerator, don't be all uncool and miss out. Catch new episodes every Tuesday and Friday only on the Ringer Reality TV feed.
Hello, pleasers. That's what I'm calling you. Let me know if it's creepy because it kind of sounds a little creepy. I'm really excited for you to listen to this next episode. It's amazing. It's with a very near and dear, amazing, stunning, gorgeous, genius friend, Antoni Porowski. And we actually filmed this one in my house because Antoni and I love to cuddle together. I hope you enjoy this episode. Bye, pleasers. Hello. Welcome to Please See Below, my brand new podcast, all about perfecting the art of oversharing. Here, we mention the unmentionables and talk about topics and things that no one wants to say out loud, but everyone is desperate to know. I am here with Antoni, author, food and wine expert, New York City's #1 bachelor, hottest dude in the world, and my best friend. Okay, we all want to know, who was Ant pre-Queer Eye?
Not the collective we.
Not the collective. Yes, the collective. We all want to know.
Who was I pre-Queer Eye? I was a lot more shy and a lot more reserved. I mean, I think I've always been a passionate person, but I was in like the New York hustle. Like I arrived here as a student. I just got my undergrad in psych in Montreal. And
so you were how old when you came here? 20?
I guess I was in like my early mid-20s.
Okay.
And then I applied for the neighborhood playhouse because I wanted to be an actor. So I figured like my parents are physicians. We have a lot of physicians in the family. And I decided psychology was like a good bridge between like the arts and the sciences. And as soon as I had that, I was like, okay, I'm going to go be an actor and like pursue my dream.
Okay.
And so I came here and it was just like the hustle. And like, I don't know, like it is for so many people when they move to New York. You're like broke and trying to like figure shit out.
Yeah.
You know?
I lived with a friend on her couch, with 4 roommates. And it was like 2 bedrooms. And we did one of those real road walls and hung out. Yeah.
No privacy.
No privacy.
whatsoever.
And I was like in the middle. So there was always like dudes just walking through my room either way, you know? Like,
isn't that fun? Like all that kind of stuff like shapes you.
It was. And I tell everyone I'm like, you have to move to New York and you need to like do it the, 6th floor walk up, like have those, 10 roommates.
Mine was like a 4th floor walk up in like Greenpoint with like 4 people and someone sleeping on the couch.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's very cute. Okay. So that was life before Queer Eye. And then you...
Yeah. And then basically the show happened and my life went from, before that it was as an aspiring actor and working like 2 jobs part-time. My life was basically like stapling my headshot to a resume and like sending it out to people. So it was all kind of outgoing. And then suddenly Queer Eye happens and it was this like a pretty big hit. And then suddenly all the attention was incoming. So like the whole like energetic, like all the energetic forces just kind of like shifted.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was being asked like, what's going to make you happy? What inspires you? And so it was like this like confidence building exercise that kind of happened in a weird way overnight.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like very explosive and overwhelming and always also really beautiful in some ways. But I actually got to start thinking like, oh, like, what do I want to do? It wasn't sort of like the me reaching out to people and like begging them for work,
it was kind of like, okay, now everything's coming to you. Wait, did you watch the show? People always ask me this. Did you watch the show before? Because like being on reboots, it's like, everyone's always like, did you watch it before? And sometimes people... I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people judge me because I say, I'm like, yeah, I watched this in the beginning. Like, I loved it.
Right.
And then their next question is, well, now isn't it weird being on it? It's like 10 shades of weird, but good. And I don't know. But did you watch?
It's not good or bad, but I think there are pros and cons that come with both, right? Because you get to go in with like a blank slate if you haven't seen it. And if you've seen it, you've done your homework. Like, you know how it operates. You kind of know what to expect, even though there are always curveballs. But I think with the original Queer Eye, like my sisters definitely watched it. It wasn't something that, I mean, I was a kid, so I was like still watching like Transformers and He-Man and stuff when it was out. And Star Wars, naturally. But it was something that I was very familiar with. I thought it was very funny. I thought at the time when I was a kid, I was like definitely into girls, but I knew that there was a possibility that I would end up with a guy. So it was like that curiosity, like that sort of like what's behind the velvet rope thing was always there. But I wasn't like I didn't have like this like energetic pull or anything to it, but it was interesting to kind of have that. And also I was an assistant to the original Food and Wine guy, Ted Allen, for a few years, way before the show was even rebooted. So I weirdly learned about the industry a little bit before I was even sort of like offered an opportunity to be part of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So then you start on that. Did you think now, what is it now in season 9?
Season 9, yeah.
Season 9, season 10. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yay. When you sign up for season 1, were you like, this is going to be 10 years? Or you're like, maybe no.
I genuinely thought, I remember there was a trip that I took with Tan, with my castmate, the fashion expert. My partner at the time wasn't able to come. So Tan came with me on a family trip to Guadeloupe with my dad and my stepmom.
Nice.
And we were sitting there in the water and we were just kind of like looking out. And Tan was like, do you think the show's going to be a hit? And I was like, it was right after we were done filming seasons 1 and 2 in Atlanta. Yeah. And we had like 5 months of nothing going on before it was going to come out. Being the quietest one, I think out of the bunch, I was nervous that I was going to, not nervous, but I was kind of expecting, I was telling my agent at the time, I was like, I don't think anyone's going to notice me. And I think I'm like, just going to kind of like hide in between. I think they might even recast. Like I'm a little nervous. Tan had his own version of that as well. And we were like, so we kind of prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
Hoping for the best, but really preparing for the worst. And I was thinking like, what's going to be next? Do I want to work in food? Like that wasn't really part of the plan.
Right.
You know, like I had other dreams and other goals and things that I wanted to accomplish, but it came out and it was this like much bigger deal than I think any of us really expected, but that we secretly hoped for.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of like changed from there.
Huge and massive. That was the same thing with the Roni reboot. I was like, at first I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this kind of as a joke. And then when we were filming the first season, I was actually asked to be demoted multiple times. I was like, can I just be a friend of? Because I like don't have time to do this.
Oh, you asked for it.
I asked in the first season. And because they weren't really, I wasn't filming, like everyone was we couldn't film in my old apartment.
Right.
So everyone else had crews at the other girls' houses every day. And it's like Jenna Lyons on it. And these like influencers and everything. I was like, I'm barely like and I'm single. And I'm like, who am I? I'm not a gazillionaire. I'm not. So I'm like.
So you were like doing a lot of comparing and despairing.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm friend of. I was like, can I get demoted to friend of? Like, I'm cool. Like, I just, free drinks. I can just show up and like have fun. And then it turned into something different. Like, like in a self-sabotagey way where you were just like, I want to like set my expectations and not get too excited for this. Both. It was, I obviously hope for the best similarly, but I was like, I hope that it went well. But I also knew from watching it beforehand how much like I enjoyed it. And I liked watching those women. And I'm like, who are we? Like, I'm not Bloomberg's wife, like getting like, like drinking in the morning and like, and I own houses in the Hamptons. And I was like, the entire time I was like, I just don't want this thing to suck. Like, I just don't want it to suck. I just wanted it to like pass. Because I feel like with reboots, it's not just like starting a new show ever is hard, as hard as is. But then when it's it's like double.
There's a set of expectations, right? You have your like early adopters and then like the ones who like watch the show originally. And then you have the newbies that kind of come along who've never even heard of it, like your Gen Z and even some of like your later millennials.
Yeah.
It's a really bizarre thing because it's like we kind of have no control over it. And then it comes out and it's sort of like, or like the things that stick that get people excited. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the little moments that you have, it's kind of like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a thing.
Oh, so
like I never knew I was so excitable.
You're so excitable. Yeah. It's so cute though. It's like adorable.
But like, is there any, like, what'd you learn about yourself on the show where you were like, damn, I didn't know I did that?
I make a lot of dick jokes.
A lot of dick jokes.
Yeah.
You weren't aware that you made a lot of dick jokes?
I didn't know watching it back. It was like this. And I was like, oh my God, Brynn, like really? Like why? I'm always making a little joke.
Right.
But I think it's funny.
Of course.
I think it's like, and I enjoy it. It's in my brain. Yeah. So I can't like pretend that
and it's good because it's funny, but it makes people a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. If like they're a little more conservative or, But I knew I was okay because I had someone who reached out for me from middle school at Corpus Christi Middle School. And they're in 8th grade. They're like, you remember Mr. Hammond? He was like this hot teacher. He was like, you used to find excuses to come into our class. And then Mr. Hammond would turn around and I'd go like this and stuff. So I've been doing this since I was... You've been that through and through.
Yeah. So there's no, it's not an act and there's no like real issue. I think I've just been a perv.
But isn't it kind of cool when you get positive reinforcement or some form of public praise for something that is just like genuinely or authentically you that you might have been ostracized for or hasn't been encouraged or whatever it is?
If there was one thing that I could give like everyone, there's like pros and cons to being like a TV personality, it would be that. It would be like to be be able to be exactly who you are and to have people like you for that. And maybe even parts of you that you didn't like about yourself. And then people like love that. I'm like, I wish everyone could have that feeling.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Especially stuff that isn't necessarily encouraged when you're a kid. Like if you're a vulnerable kid, like I've always been highly sensitive.
Yeah.
I can cry at art or like music or like things can make me really emotional. And when you're like a boy, and you're kind of like in a very sort of like heteronormative straight like upbringing.
Yeah. Because you grew up in Canada.
It's like not in Canada, but it's like not really cool. Like you're doing sports, you're swimming and you're doing all that kind of stuff. And suddenly you're an adult and it's like, oh, like people seem to, and it's not that I'm going to like go and cry more, but it's sort of like, oh, like I did all that so that I can get here, if that makes sense. It's sort of like, oh, like it actually is okay to be myself. On one end, like when Queer Eye first came out and I had a bit of like an epiphany where I realized like, oh, I actually have to share about my personal life too.
Yeah.
It's not just these people who were on the show who were trying to like make them be the best versions of themselves.
And you guys just don't coach. You're not just do this and do this. You're like.
And I hate unsolicited advice, so I certainly don't want to give it. I try to approach it the way my therapist approaches it with me, where it's like ask open-ended questions and just like see where it goes and just shut up and pay attention to what the person is saying. With vulnerability, it's like, on one end, like when it kind of dawned on me, it was a bit of like the gates opening up and it just kind of like came out sideways and I would just open up about everything because I learned that people connected with me when I was vulnerable on like a human level.
Yeah.
So that made me feel like, oh, I'm like doing a good thing. I'm connecting with people. But at the same time, I do have this little voice in the back of my head that's like, as soon as I share something publicly, it's no longer just mine and it's no longer just my secret. And I feel like it kind of loses a bit of its power. And I think working a public facing job, there are parts of me that I'm always going to want to keep to myself or to my inner circle or just for like me and my family, whether it's protecting somebody or just protecting myself. I think it's tricky. And I think it's very much like a case by case study because even on camera, sometimes it's like, I want to be able to open up about certain things, but it's like, it can be disrespectful towards somebody who's in my life, even if I talk about it like in a general sense. Yeah. It's a weird thing to even talk about because it's like I have these personal examples and even talking about real things like grief and like loss. It's like, I never want to be too specific because it's like, I want those parts for me. And a lot of times, like, I'm still working through it. Like I'm still going to therapy. And it's like, I don't like to talk about things in terms of finiteness as if it's something that I've like accomplished or conquered because it's ongoing.
Last season when I shared everything about my childhood and stuff like that, and then I like freaked out because I was like, oh my God, I don't know if my birth mother told her current job that she was ever in prison, right? My dad's dead. Right. So that is but I was like freaking out about that. And I was so scared of everyone knowing about like, even the people like I've worked with, or just, it's like people, like you get afraid of the people who know you, who think they're close to you. And they're like, I didn't know this. You never shared this with me. Right. Now you're sharing it on national television. And then just the sheer judgment of even random ass people that I've met in the past of like knowing, and the people that I lied to all through grade school and high school, where my mom and dad were and whatever. Right. And then even this season I opened up about sexual assault. And that's the real reason why when people are like, why are you single? And I'm like, because there's not enough billionaires. I was like, no, the real reason I feel like I've lied the past year.
Right.
And lied about like why I'm single because I'm still going through it. But I freaked the fuck out this season because like the childhood stuff was like something I've dealt with for a long time and I've therapy and I've processed and like was able to come to terms with that. But I freaked out. And I felt kind of empowered to share this year because I was like, wow, that helped me. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, going to reality TV instead of therapy, it healed something that years of therapy couldn't with my parents. Yeah. Because all these people are like, oh my gosh, same. And for some reason, just finally just like getting it out, it was like a demon or something. And then to have everyone be so loving and supportive about it. And then like me because of it, the thing that I was ashamed of, I was like, okay. So going into this season, I was like, first I told the producers, I was like, I don't want to share. So I'm going through this thing. And that's the real reason why I was so upset about Mimi. Cause actually I didn't talk to her like the last year because I was hiding because of the sexual assault thing. I was a shell of myself. I was like, that was the real reason, but I don't think I want to share it this year. Right. Famous last words. I think the producers always like,
ooh, a little nugget you gave us.
Hey guys, I'm totally not going to share this year, but like whatever. And then sure enough though, and like, but there was this thing that's like, okay, but it helped last year. It helped. So maybe share, but it felt so different because I'm still dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've been able to deal with 15 years in therapy and going to Bali and having retreats and like, whatever about. It was like, I'm actively doing this. And the circle of people that knew were my brother, my therapist, like three or four people, so it's like sharing that. It was just a completely different thing of vulnerability and sometimes you feel powerful from it. Sometimes then you don't. I still don't right now know how I feel about sharing it.
And I think that's fine. Even like not having that awareness or that clarity. You're touching on something that's been my favorite topic of conversation in therapy for the past year is the acceptance that I can have multiple feelings going on simultaneously. Yeah. I can feel relieved when I talk about something, but also like really scared. Yeah. I can be furious about something and just have like an inner rage that's going on and also have a sadness and also a sense of relief as well. That's there. Like those things can kind of coexist. I can be happy and sad. Happy, sad is my favorite set of like emotions. You know what I mean? It's like I'm through and through like a happy, sad boy. Yeah, literally like that, but like internally. Yeah. Shyness is something that still exists with me. I think it manifests itself in very different ways than it used to. But on Queer Eye, it's like at the beginning, I was basically put in with 4 other people who were like very type A, more extroverted and kind of like outgoing. And there's not an active in terms of like trying to like one up each other, but there's like a competitiveness and like you have to be able to like speak up in a way, but not yell so that you can be heard and share your voice. And I tend to be more quiet. And so there are certain scenes like at the end of every episode, that's when we had like our big goodbyes to the hero. And we like go over like what they helped us learn about ourselves. And the hero tells us like what they learned from each of us. It's like a weird emotional jerk off of like compliments until like you have to say goodbye.
I love
it. And I used to kind of like get quiet in those moments because it was sort of like, oh, I'm not going to say anything that's like unique or different than what anybody else is saying. And I would dread that day so much. I thrive in scenes one-on-one.
Yeah.
When I'm with the person, I get to ask the questions that I want to. I get to connect with them through food, use that as a vehicle for storytelling. And like, I am like fully in my element and I can do that with my eyes closed. But when I'm like in a group, it just makes it definitely makes it more challenging. But I've kind of learned to accept that like, that just kind of takes time. It's like, I don't know what it's like for you on Housewives, but it's like in those big group settings, because I've done it in the past where I've seen edits and I'm like, I just literally said that and it's like kind of dumb and it doesn't even make any sense. And I didn't want to. I just noticed that everyone else had spoken, so do you like but I didn't say anything. So you're like, oh, I think I know what I want to say, but then when they go around the group, you're like, oh wait, but that one was, oh God, that one was probably whatever. That one was a little better, or like that person touched on something that I wanted to bring.
That's hard.
And then I've learned to just be like, you know what, like law of abundance. Everyone has their moment. If I don't have anything to say, that's fine. I could just be quiet and just like, don't look vacant. Because I have this thing where sometimes if I'm like really pensive, I kind of like look to the side and I get a little aloof. It was a series of a lot of tweets where it was like, we got to save Ant, like original press junkets for Queer Eye, where they were like, I think Ant's been kidnapped by the Fab Five and he doesn't really want to be there. Because I'll just like literally gaze off at like in the BuzzFeed offices and I'm like, and then I start smiling and there's like a little bit of drool and like a teardrop. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? Completely disassociating, but I'm actually very in tune. I'm just like thinking about something like that's my aloofness. And then it's the other insecurity that kicks in of like, my biggest insecurity is that people think I'm dumb. When I say something dumb and it's sort of like, no, I'm aloof. Like I can get really distracted, but like, and that's when I feel this like inner voice to be like, no, like I have a bachelor's and I've like seen the world. I speak multiple, and it's just like, shut up. Like just shut up. Like it's fine.
No,
some people can think you're really dumb and that's okay.
And that's okay.
And sometimes when they do, you can play with that too. I've learned to like have fun with it.
I think that's what I do on my show.
You are excellent at that.
Because I know that, I think the one thing, I didn't have a lot growing up, or I had like a lot of insecurities. Thank God all my insecurities were like I don't have parents and like nobody loves me and that sort of stuff. I didn't have an issue with anything else. Like I know that I'm smart, you know? So if anything, I enjoy, if people think I'm dumb, it's like, let's have fun. Cause it's different. Cause I had to go into protective mode and be smarter than like doctors and lawyers and judges and things for years and like make sure and like court appointed counselors and they're going to take me away and and police were called and like all these things. And I remember being little and being like, I have to be smarter than all these people. So now I like being like, oh, you think I'm dumb or I get to play dumb? Like, and it's fun.
Because you know who you are.
Yeah, I know who I am, but I don't, it's different on ours because, and also maybe that I'm more like your other castmates where I feel like, again, because I grew up being like, okay, if my mom and dad, my biological aren't going to love me, everyone else in the world's going to fucking love me. So it's like the same shit I've been doing my whole life. Like I would make an amazing politician, you know, of just like whole office. No, but like I enjoy getting like connecting with people. I enjoy knowing that like you feel me and I feel you. And this is important.
What's better in the world?
Literally. There's nothing better of being, and it's true. And it's honest of being like, and like we made it yourself. Like I see you and you see me and we're actually relatable. And I know that because we both will walk away feeling better, even if we don't see each other, even if it's like you see someone on the subway and just something small or like a little conversation with my Uber driver, that brings me such like, maybe that's ego, but just like a joy.
No.
Like I love it, you know? And even as an Aquarius, people were actually, a lot of the times they say the people around us that are closest to us, our most loved ones, they don't feel that. But like our whole thing is like, we love doing it with other people. Like I just love connecting with like complete strangers.
The best.
Specifically on the internet.
On the apps.
Yeah. What do you cry about now?
Music.
Same.
Music still definitely gets me. That's my number one.
Yeah.
And then if I'm like overworked and I'm really tired, I can be like easily primed. And the smallest little thing can make me cry. Like if it's beautiful or if it's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I cry at joy. I keep thinking like, I have found myself, I'll be like, it's like last year sounds so douchey, but it's like, I was like dancing on a table in San Tropez.
Everyone does, yeah.
Like, and my girlfriend's
You know, my thing about you is I love how relatable you are. Like everyone gets that reference.
And I'm just start bawling, crying. And everyone's like, are you like, I'm like, of course I'm drunk, but usually I'm just like, but I was like, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And I have these, maybe it's Catholic guilt, maybe it's Indiana guilt, maybe it's conservative guilt. I don't know. But I was like, I think I'm living my Marie Antoinette life and I'm like, I'm going to get my head chopped off. Like, why should I get to feel such joy?
Like, when is it going to go away? See, my mind immediately went to like, oh, I'm experiencing this. And like, this is such a stark contrast to a lot of things that I experienced in my life previously. And so it's like,
but that's it.
The joy is almost shocking and your body doesn't know what to do.
My body doesn't know how to react. When I get very, very happy, I actually just start crying and I like don't. And maybe sometimes I think my therapist was like, are you sure you're not like just allowing yourself to not feel the joy? But for some reason, it like deeply.
There can be tears of joy. That's like totally a thing.
Yeah. But
it's like watching a dodo video about dog. Do you follow the dodo?
No.
Come on.
No.
As a dog owner?
No.
It's these crazy stories about like a dog that was chained to a fence and weighed like -5 pounds and had like giardia and all this stuff. And then they bring it back to health and the dog is socialized and it's really happy.
I
and
see
then
those on TikTok all the time.
There's a lot of those.
Okay,
It's like, oh.
Those I can't deal
it's like
with.
The ultimate hope core. I love it.
It's like modern day. What was that one that they used to say back in the day? I will remember. It's
like the ASPCA commercials with Sarah McLachlan, Canadian icon and legend. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's like the modern Dodo's like the modern TikTok version of that. Yeah. Well, no, since it's my second dog, I am now kind of resigned to being like a bullshit dog mom.
What does that mean?
So my first dog, I was so intense. My first dog was purchased as, I'm sorry, I cheated. Here's a dog, right? And then I had Pepper for 15 years. And Pepper, she saw some shit. She went through some shit with me. And then I lost Pepper. And then I literally don't think, like, I had lost my mom like 3 months prior. It was like 2021. And I think, I don't know, maybe it was a compounding, but I've never felt worse than when my dog died. Like it was bad. And I was like, I'm never getting another dog. And I never want to feel that level of love. Because I don't want to feel that sort of loss. Right. And I was like, I'm never going to get a damn dog. Never did it. And then when I was freezing my eggs in January, I was like, I was just like on a bunch of hormones, hopped up, and I was just buying shit. I was like, I'm going to buy a dog. And I did. And I bought Sugar. And it's funny. I was thinking today, I keep looking at her. I still don't love her as much as I love Pepper. Like I miss Pepper still.
Maybe it's a different kind of love.
Maybe, but I thought I would just fill the hole.
Right.
And it hasn't. Kind of makes me miss Pepper more. And then, yeah, I think I'm a bullshit dog parent right now because I was like, maybe I'll rename her to Pickle because Pickle's cuter.
Pickle is very cute.
And you know, there's no law that says you can't rename your dog. You can rename Neon. You can rename Neon to like...
I kept it because the name was so weird and it was her shelter given name that I decided to keep it, and it confuses the hell out of people. I was at like a Housing Works the other day and I was helping my friend with a mirror that she got. And this woman comes up and she's like, oh, you have a beautiful dog. What's her name? And I'm like, Neon. She's like, what? Neon. She's like, oh, like the noble gas. And I'm like, brilliant. That's what I'm going to tell everybody now. I'm like, she's Neon, smart. Like the noble gas. Yeah. Like it's so weird and quirky, and so is she.
If anyone says highlighter, be like, do you know anything about gases?
Noble gases, like periodic table.
Yeah,
let's
hello.
Go. Yeah.
Get with it.
But I don't know, they just bring so much joy. Do you feel like you judge yourself for not loving her as much?
A little bit. And I'm waiting. It's growing more and more. But it's hard because she's doing things that the Pepper didn't. Like, so I just got her fixed and now she's humping. So, I was going to ask you, does your dog brand that you have, Yummers, does Yummers have anything for humping?
I guess the calming formula might help.
Let's plug Yummers.
It's a weird thing with dog humping. She doesn't do it to me as much, but when Brian, her like dog camp guy who we were talking about a lot, and I'm going to put you in touch with because he's amazing. When he picks her up every morning, like he's her favorite person in the world, like even more than me, and I'm okay with it.
I would be fine with that.
And when he shows up and he starts like putting her coat on and her collar and gives her like her first little treat, she immediately goes for the hump. And I'm like, why are you letting her do that? He was like, I let her get it out of her system. It lasts about like a minute and a half, and then she moves on and she doesn't do it again for the rest of the day.
I need Brian to give a lecture like all men in New York City.
Right? Yeah.
Just let me hump your leg for like...
Just for a little bit. Just get it out of your system.
Just get it out so that I can concentrate.
Otherwise it's repressed and it's going to be there. But it's like, I still don't understand the root of it though. Like, why does she do it? Is it a control thing?
No, so...
Is it like a weird reflex?
My vet thinks I'm a weirdo. Dr. Coleman, he's amazing. They're like total hippies over here. But he was like, no, it's not. It's not even like a sexual thing. Like they don't see, I think it's like just love. It's love.
Oh, so it's a display of, well, that makes sense that she does it to him.
It's romantic. Yeah.
And then she does it less to me. See, now I'm a little jealous. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm like, I wish my dog humped me more.
Yeah.
That's a little tidbit. Answer to bestiality. It's okay. People said worse.
What's the worst thing someone said about you that's not true?
Oh my gosh. I think, what's the worst thing that anyone's ever said about me? I'm trying to think back.
It could be something that you cared that they said, or you gave like zero fucks that they said.
Right. Like it was so ridiculous that it just kind of didn't make any sense. I think it would have to do with like, so I don't look at comments anymore. I've become like very good. I have very firm boundaries with not reading articles and looking at like literally anything. Because if I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, it'll just devastate me. And I'm just not strong enough for that.
Same.
But I would say it's like at the beginning when I really cared so much and I just wanted to do well on Queer Eye and like just be good and like get praise and like attention and love and all that kind of stuff, when it was like a lot more important to me. It still is, but I have a very different relationship with it now. When anyone would criticize like the simplicity of what I was making and be like, it's so basic, like you're teaching this person how to make a sandwich.
Yeah.
When I knew inside it was sort of like, yeah, this person's been eating out of cans and they've never like cut open a fresh fucking fruit before in their lives. Yeah. And I knew the truth, but at the same time, I cared so deeply about what people kind of said. Yeah. So it was like little things like that.
In the moment when you're with the people, because it's so inspiring. And I remember going through like tough times in my life. It's like Drag Race and Queer Eye I would watch because I was like, I just need hope and I need to feel better. Is it a different, do they capture it accurately? Like, for example, what you just said, because then people can be like, oh, cool, you assembled a sandwich. Right. Like, you have no idea, dude. I was in this person's house. This person was in actual pain. Like,
I mean, I think that people are going to see what they want to see. Yeah. And if there's a story that's perpetuated, that's like entertaining or exciting to them in some way, they're going to kind of like create their own truth based on that narrative that they already have.
Yeah.
there are some people that, you know, are very understanding of like, oh, wow, like it's incredible that you go there and you don't try to like intimidate the person with something that they're never going to recreate before and make them feel like shit and make them feel less than. And
that would also be an awesome show.
That would be an awesome show.
I'd watch that.
Today we're making a croquant bouche.
Make them cry.
But then there are other people who are sort of like, oh, like you're doing this like simple, basic thing. And so it's like, the messaging there and like the lesson for it, it's always like, what's the personal takeaway so that I can sleep better at night is sort of like, you got to channel out the good and the bad. And it's like, if you're going to pay attention to the positive stuff, then you got to pay attention to the negative. And I choose to try to like limit myself of both because it's like neither of them are really healthy.
No, neither of them are healthy. When they praise you, when they love you, or when they rip you down, neither of them
just
is
like focus on the work and be truthful with the person that you're with and figure out how I can best be of service in a very limited amount of time that we're in. Yeah. That turns into a 4-minute segment. Yeah. You know, like it's a crazy thing.
What's the dumbest shit that you've said? Oh. So you know that like sometimes I'll get fed on TikTok, like, cause I haven't watched, like, cause I don't have time to watch like anything, but I like your most recent season and it will be like 1 million likes. And it's like Antoni being like, hey guys, we're going to have a picnic. A picnic is where you sit down at a table and picnic. And I'm like, why are you so cute?
Evan Ross Katz's Farm Table.
Oh, Farm Table. That was it.
So that's where I adore her. She's our showrunner, Jen Lane. She fucked me in that moment because she was doing my little confessional and we were sitting and we were helping a farmer create a farm to table experience for his guests. Yeah. And so she's like, so what are we doing this week? I'm like, we're doing a farm to table dinner, super classic, super traditional. And she's like, and like some of us don't understand what farm to table is. So like explain what it is. And then jokingly, I was like, well, basically it's like you take food from the farm and you put it on the table. There's like no intermediary and that's it. And that's what the editors decided to keep. And it's like, those simple, I don't think it was like her intention to have like a gotcha or anything. It was just like a very simple, because at the end of the day, like the truth to that is you can never assume what somebody does or doesn't know. And if you start speaking in kind of like an elitist way and using certain words, you're going to exclude some people. For sure. But if you oversimplify it, people are going to think you're a little dum-dum, you know? Yeah. And so it's like, it's a tricky situation. And you're like, but that's with me, it's like all of my viral moments. Like I've learned to laugh. I used to take it personally because it's like, I'm either the one who like gets really emotional and just like has a guttural cry about something, or I have a little scene where I'm shirtless, or I say some really dumb shit. Oh my God, that's so cute. And it's fun. Cute. And I've learned to just kind of like lean into it and be like, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not here to save lives. I'm here to have connections with people and to have fun and to enjoy myself.
But that all is a part of your personality. I would say, I'm not going to describe a percentage, but like 20, 50, 20. That's like what you just described, those 3 things. That's a little bit of your personality. It's not it's so, you're so different than that and more, and there's so much more, you know, but
you're the exact same way. The first time where we met up and we had dinner at that little, like, maybe we can like gatekeep the place unless you want to share it. But it's like an adorable little place where a lot of really old people go to have dinner. Italian people have in New York. At 5:30.
Yeah. I like an early bird. I like being around old people.
I love granny grazing. Yes. It's the best. You get to get home, you hang out with your dog, you have your little nighttime mocktail after. It's great. Yeah. And we were sitting there and it's like, we kind of like pivoted from, and I'd only seen you on the show, but I was obsessed with you. And then we met each other at the gym. Yeah. And you went from like, you do your like extremely like, you somehow balance, I think that people fall into 2 categories, charm and charisma. You manage to have both because people who are charming, I think like they put in the effort, not in like a bad way. And then charisma is just something that you kind of have or you don't. And you're able to kind of play with both. But then you can immediately pivot to like, your voice goes down an octave. And we're talking about like a real life situation or something that we both shared, like an experience that we had from growing up or whatever it is. And it's like, you're able to like do all of that and you're more complicated. You're a lot more complex and rich, I think, and we all are, right? Like,
right.
Anybody is, but it's like on TV, it's sort of like people want to put you in a category because it's easier to understand. It's like, that's the point of casting is to put you in a box. Yeah.
When people meet you in real life, do they expect you to be the one they see on TV, or do they think they know you more, or...
All of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, pre-pandemic, people were very touchy. I think it's a very emotional show. I have friends of mine who are actors, and it's like when they stop them on the street, they know them as a concept, as a character that they played.
Yeah.
And there's a certain boundary and a distance or like a reverence. If they're like a Marvel superhero, then it's like,
for sure,
there's a bit of like a fear and a respect. With us, it's like, I've like snot cried in every episode and laughed hysterically and like grabbing Tan's taint as we're like running down the hall and like just being silly and goofy.
They know you.
And so they touch you and they grab and like, I have days where I'm like a little more sensitive and I'm a little more introverted and I kind of like tense up and get uncomfortable. And then I have days when I'm not, but I always try to remind myself, like, they're seeing like a certain, like I'm a concept to them. Even though I showed them a very real, very honest, true part of myself, that is a sliver of who I am. Right. Yeah. It's true though.
I need to write that down. I need to get like a tattoo because that's how I feel. Yeah. Like
some of them maybe just only attach themselves to like sexy, silly, irreverent Brynn.
Sure.
But like, you are deeply emotionally intelligent. You can have like a real conversation. You're like a truth teller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think like you see things with like a really good lens of like objectivity and you understand how the world works.
Yeah.
Like when you walk into a room and for some people, it's just like they're either not interested or they're not ready or they're just not capable of seeing that part and they just kind of hyper focus on one specific part.
Yeah.
So to some people I'm like silly and goofy, to other people I'm deeply emotional.
Yeah.
And other people just like assume that like I'm just ready to like make out with them and give them a hug. You know what I mean? Which is like, I can be all of those things.
Yeah, I can do at the same time.
At the same time. I will cry while I make out with you.
Have you ever cried while making out? Do you want to try?
When I was saying, we can try it. When I was saying goodbye to someone once.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a makeout. It was like a kiss.
Okay.
Long time ago.
Have you ever played the New York Times 36 questions with someone?
No.
So anytime that I want to try to make a guy fall in love with me, which I'll do it with you, that should be the next episode.
I'm already in love with you, so you're good, but go ahead.
Stop telling me more. There's New York Times had this article, and was it 2017 or 18, where basically it was a scientific study where researchers said, where people are like, no, love is actually a chemical, falling in love is a chemical reaction.
Right.
And it can be unveiled via multiple layers of these questions. And the questions they're not these like deeply interrogative or something or about a child. No, it all varies. So there's 36 questions, 4 sets, 9 each, and you ask, and you go, and it's not supposed to be long-winded.
Yeah.
No, it's not supposed to be long-winded answers either. You're supposed to just ask. And some are like, if you could wake up next to something every morning, what would it be? I don't know, just random questions. Yeah. Then at the end of it, here's the clincher. The end of it, you have to sit in silence and look at each other in the eyes for 3 minutes without talking.
Like a little Marina Abramovich, The Artist is Present exercise.
I cry watching that. I love it when the ex came.
When the ex came.
Lost my shit.
Yeah,
I lost my shit and I wanted them together. And then I like reread all their whole history. But it's like that and just staring. So 3 minutes, you sit in silence.
Yeah.
And it works. You will you can make anyone fall in love with you. But don't tell them. Just be like, don't play a game. Let's ask.
Just like random, like, hey.
Yeah. I just have some questions on my phone, and then we're gonna stare at each other's eyes.
Like watching Housewives having sugarfish sitting on the floor, and it's sort of like, hey, just like so random. There's nothing behind this. Let's just like look at each other for 3 minutes.
Let's just look at each other for 3 minutes. But it works.
It's like me and my dog.
Yeah. And there's a million success stories, and there's like, and it was one of those viral New York Times article, and like everyone is like, yes, it works. You might not like end up or stay with the person, but you're like, I fell in love with them, even if it was in some like platonic. Yeah. What's your sign?
Pisces.
Oh, you're so emotional.
Very emotional. Love a bath. And I've learned, I'm like slowly starting to like, because I also read that thing that like people who follow astrology have a lower IQ. So I was like, oh.
Here's hoping. I lived in LA for a while.
But I also have a psychic. So it's like, why am I being a hypocrite?
Is there a sign that you go for?
No, I don't really.
Because people with that like astrology have low IQs.
I think that
I love it. I like it.
I mean, I've met, I've been with all kinds of different signs. I don't know enough about them. Maybe I'm more selfish, so I just know more about myself.
That's not selfish.
Like I'm someone who like loves very deeply, but I've also learned that if you wrong me or if you like really disrespect me, I can be surgical. In like putting my walls up.
You come from a family of doctors. Yeah.
Oh, great little medical term. I didn't think of that. But I can love very deeply and like really give my all. But if I'm hurt, then it's like my walls go up and they are not coming down.
Do you get surgical and stay, or do you get surgical and leave?
Surgical, you will not have any access to me. I will not hear. I'm not going to know anything about you. You won't know anything. I have like, I'm crazy with boundaries.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I cut people out actually but I stay for a little bit longer. I don't know if that's
just
sadistic.
To sort of like gradually.
Because I'm like, well, maybe I can. But at the end of the day, I've gotten better now as I've gotten older.
Right.
Now I'm like, now I know this feeling. It's like, I'm never going to get over this. I don't know if I forgive or forget. I don't think I do.
That's an interesting one. Cause I forgive maybe.
There was like 10 years.
There was a TikTok that came up. I don't post, but I have like a very disturbing algorithm, but some of it's like really beautiful. And there was something that Taylor was writing about, like, she's like, no, you don't always have to. It was an interview on some like Sunday morning show. And she was like, you don't always have to forgive. Sometimes it's like you can move on and be fine and be at peace and go through like she didn't say it exactly, but that's how I interpreted it. Through like the DABDA, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, denial, anger, bereavement, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Like you can go through all of that and not forgive the person and just kind of like move on.
Yeah.
And it's like an interesting thing to think about. I don't know if it's something that I can adopt in my own life, but I got very curious about it. And I've started thinking about it because it's like you do all of this, with me, it's typically it's actually in all three, in family, relationships, and friendships.
Yeah.
Where I never want to have any enemies. I never want to cross the street when I like see anybody. It's always like, I always want to be civil. But then it's like, it takes time to get there. And I think it's just like being gentle with yourself.
It takes a lot of time to get there. And sometimes I think it's maybe okay at sometimes if you don't ever get there, as long as there's no like hostility. Right. But I think it's okay. I don't know, maybe it was because I'm 1986. I think we just grew up with this, or maybe it's I'm Catholic, forgive and forget. You need to be another person and Jesus forgave or whatever. But now I'm like, I don't know, like, do I have to? Or sometimes with family stuff, I'm like, and my therapist has been like, no, maybe it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's not okay to hang on to hatred or resentment or to harbor those sort of things. But I think it's okay to be like, I'm maybe never going to be okay with what happened or with you. Like I can, pass you on the street and I'm not going to be like, fuck you or something like that. But I don't have to like, I don't know. I don't have to pretend to like that I'm okay.
But I think it's like, you can also make that thing your friend. It's kind of like, going back to what we were talking a little earlier, it's like I used to be a little embarrassed about my vulnerability and I've learned to like make it my friend. It's like, well, it's not fucking going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like this forever. So like, why not figure out how to just make it work for me?
Yeah.
Or even like my anxiety or my stress or like even sadness. It's like my therapist always tells me in just dealing with like literally anything. It's sort of like, I'm always trying to like, what can I be doing better to like fix myself? What's the vitamin drip or like the infrared thing, or like how much longer can I sit in a cold plunge, or what kind of healing can I do, or journaling. And it's sort of like, sometimes it's just like, accept the fact that you woke up in the morning and that dark ass cloud is going to be following you around all day. And it's okay. It's okay to not be okay.
It's
which I've heard so many times, but I feel like I'm only starting to understand this now at this stage of my life.
1000%. I'm finally like, sometimes I'm like, you know what? Or I'll try to push myself to like have the good day. And then it'll be like 1 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm just going to go and like, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to rot for the day.
I want to be so much better at that. Are you like, can you turn the TV on?
Oh yeah. I just turn the TV on. Like, I'm just going to rot. I'm not going to pay the managers, the agents, and like the shit I have to do. Like,
that's where I suck. I'm going to come over next time that happens.
Yeah, please, let's rat together. We always talk about what we need to.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, like we don't even have to talk. We don't even just like, let's just like, it's like sheer presence. But I'm fine. So it was years ago. I had a really amazing friend. She's still an amazing friend, but we're not as close anymore. But her story was crazy. She was working at Cantor Fitzgerald, and she got laid off on September 10th. Okay. 2001. Mm-hmm. She was secretly dating this like vice president that, and staying at his house. And the night before he was like, I want to marry you. And she's like, should I go back in tomorrow and try to get my job? He's like, no. And then September 11th happened. Craziest story you'll ever meet. She has survivor's guilt and all this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So one thing I learned from her a few years back when I was trying to do all these things and I was becoming a yoga teacher, and I was like, I just need to get this out of my brain. I don't want to, this part of me, which would from childhood, and it's causing me these things. I went through another breakup, and I was like, the anxiety, the depression, the stress, all these things. I was like, I want them gone. I want a lightsaber. I want something I'll do shock therapy. I said therapist, I was like, can I do shock therapy? She's like, I think you need it. I was like, I want it gone.
The 60s have come and gone.
I was like, I want it gone. This part of my brain, like it's holding me back. And she said something beautiful to me. She was like, but it's all connected. She's like, those things that did that, I'm gonna upset. They made the good parts too. Like you can't like shut it off. Right. Like, so maybe you wouldn't be Antoni if you were like, if you didn't have those things. Like you wouldn't be the funny, like, can we hug you on the street and make out with you? And like the vulnerable, like you wouldn't, like it all it sprouts from the same tree. So if you try to like cut it off, then you actually might lose like the best parts of you too. So just like embrace it. I'm
going to quote Ina Garten, not in a culinary way that I thought like I typically do, but like what's the name of her memoir?
Oh my God.
Like Wait Until the Magic Happens.
I bought the book and I read 2 excerpts, by the way, like she's next level.
Obsessed with her.
Obsessed.
But like even that title, it's like you kind of have to wait for like everything is going to make sense in time. And even with, you know, when I look at like the pain of like losing, there are people that I lost like pretty like early in life. In ways now when I kind of like look back through a lot of work and more importantly through time and just like letting it all pass, I've learned that like with that loss, I wouldn't have been able to like open my heart up to like other opportunities. And that can be personal, that can be professional. Like it only makes sense if you actually allow time to do its thing. And with any type of healing from any type of trauma, I've also learned is like, my new obsession is like, I always remind myself like, this is a cold. You can take echinacea, you can take ginger, you can go for a run, you can sit your ass on the couch and like not move. You can alleviate some of the symptoms, but at the end of the day, a cold is going to run its course on its own fucking time. And then one day you're going to wake up and you're like, oh, my voice isn't scratchy anymore. And suddenly it's like, oh, I'm not as congested. And then out of nowhere, you're like, oh, I feel really great again. And I feel like a human. And then like 8 months later, it's like winter again. And then you're like, oh, fuck, the cold is back. And it's like, oh, I forgot how bad that was.
And, but now I feel like I know when I'm going through the bad part. If anything, like now I'm actually, thank God, I wish everyone could have this. I'm aware that I'm going through the bad part. Because I think in a lot of my 20s and early 30s and before like more worse shit happened in my adult life, I didn't know it was happening and couldn't make sense of it. Now I know it's happening. And then that's when I'm like, I'm going to rot today or I just need a week off or I'm going to go to take a cooking class in France or I'm going to go do whatever I need to do because I know it's happening. It's coming. And now also when the things go bad, creepily or joyously, I'm like, oh, okay, I know how this works. I'm like, I think it's like, I'm done. This is it. I'll never recover. I'll never find someone else to love. I'll never get another job. I'm broke, whatever. And I'm like, oh, no. Oh, cool. I'm at the bottom. You know what happens?
There's always.
So I actually like the bottom sometimes. Or people call me and be like, I lost my job. My fiance dubbed me. And I'm like,
that means it's like tomorrow's going to be better.
Like, dude, go buy a lottery ticket.
And you're going to have that moment where you step outside and you're like, oh, I see the sun and I see like the wonder and like.
And I actually get freaked out. And that's why I cry when I'm dancing on tables at San Tropez because I'm like, it's coming. I'm too like whenever things are going well, I'm like, ah, shit, it's around the corner. There's going to be a death. Something bad's going to happen with the family. Something's happening because life is like, not to sound like some weird like journey, but it's like, it's not, there is no destination. There is no whatever. It's actually the whole thing is about the journey and the points that, you know, you kind of digress or you go here or there. And can you come back on track and can you learn so that the next time you maybe don't go off that or the ride's not as bumpy? Like there literally is no destination. This whole ride is the whole purpose and point. I
agree. But that understanding that you have, I think only comes from the ability and being proactive and just basically actively working on yourself. It's like the 3 A's for me. Having awareness, acceptance, and action. Once you're like aware of it and then you accept it, then you're able to. And the action sometimes is sort of like, oh, I've been through this before. Like I feel really shitty, but I know that there's something on the other side. Like it is going to get better. It actually does. Like this isn't the first time that it's happened. I'm not terminally unique. Others have gone through it. I've gone through it. Like I'm going to be okay. I'm really shitty right now. And that's okay too.
And the way you tell people too, I think like it actually helps. And then you can be like, hey, I'm actually going through this. My 3 A's used to be my favorite, who I love to date. Athletes, actors, and alcoholics.
We're basically talking about the exact same thing.
That was like my 3 types. Oh, my other question was, do you want to do the sex with me?
Absolutely. I thought that's why I came over and then I come and there are all these cameras.
My question, one of my smart genius questions, because I'm so good at this, was going to be, So, would you ever have sex with me?
I thought that's why I came over here.
I know, but I literally, would you ever sex with me? But I like that more.
It makes sense. Sexing can be a verb. Would you ever do the sex,
right? Yeah.
It's still correct.
I was thinking about responding to one person, which you shouldn't do in the comments, but I was going to be like, I can honestly tell you right now, I love men. I adore them. I'm obsessed with them. I love the way they smell. I love everything about them. I love feeling safe with them. At the same time, I'm 38. And like, I honestly don't, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm a lesbian. No, I know that I'm not. But like, if there was someone amazing that came in and met everything that I want, was kind, was everything, was funny and tall, whatever, do I really think I would care? I honestly can't say I don't know if I would care anymore. Like, I just want my person, like I make a joke, like the only thing I care about what's in your pants is your wallet. Like at this point.
But that is a form of flirtation. And I think like so my good friend Beth, who is a jewelry designer, are you familiar with Foundry?
Yeah.
So she talks about the 7 different types of love. And there's a Latin word for it, but there's like a flirtatious love that's like, it's like a playful, flirtatious, innocent love. And that's what I think of when I think of you.
Yeah.
The people that don't get it, it's like, for me, that's on them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, don't take away from like, there's like an innocent, silly, irreverent, like childlike quality to having that fun flirtation that is like, you can maybe like, I don't know if it's about like changing the word or whatever it is, but it's like, I just feel like that's on them. It just pisses me off that it's like something that makes you that is like really liked. And then suddenly it's like, I don't know, people are just like very eager to be offended.
Yeah. Very excited, very eager. We're just waiting impatiently in order to be offended. Okay. So what's next for you? Tomorrow lunch is
you in your bedroom.
No, yours, because I want to figure out the cold.
Okay, let's go. I mean, Queer Eye new season, which is really exciting. Season 9 with Jeremiah, who's just been like such a pleasure to work with.
Fresh. He's fun.
New, fresh, so fun.
Also met them at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to show a clip of you sitting on me doing the push-up. That's literally
I'm glad you finished it with the word push-up. Yeah. That was our meet cute. I flirted with you, by the way.
You did flirt with me. I flirted back. Though.
You flirted back, which is exactly what I want.
But I have a new show called No Taste Like Home that I'm really excited about for Nat Geo and Disney. And so it's basically like a family history show through the lens of food. So I take like a public facing person, I take a famous person to the country of origin, and we explore like a dish that they had when they were a kid, and we learn about like the ingredients, like what do they mean to their culture.
It's amazing.
And it's my ultimate dream, because I feel like I'm this like hybrid of like Indiana Jones meets Anthony Bourdain, and it's with Nat Geo. Very different. Like Queer Eye can say things like farm to table is basically putting food from the farm to the table. But with Nat Geo, it's everything has to be like corroborated 3 times to be turned into a fact. If they're 90% sure about something, it doesn't make it into the final edit. You have to speak with the utmost certainty.
Excellent.
So it's a whole different beast, whole new set of challenges. But it's just just like the epic, beautiful shots, and it's personal, and it checks all the boxes. So
what can people expect? So, okay, let's say like I am a massive fan of you on Queer Eye. What can I be like, this is why you're going to love this even more?
I mean, I think where it relates to Queer Eye is that it's sort of, I've learned that the thing that I'm really drawn to is storytelling through food, is using food as a medium to learn about someone's past and like where they're heading and like all of that stuff, and just have that connection with somebody else. But having it be under the scope of like, I get to show people a different side of me as well. It's like I was raised, to Polish immigrants. I grew up speaking 3 languages simultaneously, all while learning like Italian and Spanish at the same time, like as hobbies. Like I am, Queer Eye is just like the way that Queer Eye, we were touching on this earlier, in that it's like, I get to show like a sliver of me. I feel like this is like a new sliver that I haven't been able to like necessarily show, because I love traveling. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
And I love to do the highs and the lows, whether it's like a beautiful 5-star hotel to like staying in a fun, dumpy place on like a tiny little beach town. I just want adventure. I love unknown. I love being uncomfortable with all of it. And that's what makes me light up. And that's what makes me that excited little child that you touched on at the beginning. And you get to see more of that basically. So basically excited little me, jet lagged and caffeinated, running around with famous people, literally around the world, from the jungles of Borneo to the southernmost tip of South Korea to northern Italy. Like we do it all.
Talking about ingredients, talking about origins, talking about families.
Yeah, and like trying delicious things and like eating wild ferns and like.
I want to eat a fern with you.
I'll eat a fern with you any day.
I remember when you were going and you were like embarking on it. And I think you had to get a bunch of like shots and.
Oh my gosh, I had 9 shots.
Yeah.
We'll do a little viewing party together.
Yeah. In the bed.
In my bed.
In the bed.
Door closed. The dogs can stay out. Or they can watch, whatever. Well, you know what? We'll take it. We'll see what the vibe is like. Yeah. Maybe our dogs will get along.
Yeah. For sure. They will. No, they'll love each other. Neon Sugar will get along. Neon Sugar. Yeah. Sugar comes. Watch out. So does her mom. And that's all we have time today, you guys. Thanks for joining.
What a button. Wow, you made me blush by the end. That was great.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You're the best.